All right, what is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global back with another one. I realized that we really haven't gone live since probably the draft. As you can still see, my draft setup is still a thing. Um, I have not gotten down to actually taking that down, so we're just going to excuse the draft setup that is still there until I put that away. But we haven't really gone live this month. It's kind of been a crazy month with work and all this and whatnot. So it's been a little bit more difficult, but I didn't want to leave you guys high and dry. You guys are the PG family. You guys support me, and I got your back because of that. And I wanted to go live. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to be answering your questions. With that being said, drop your questions in the comment section. Make sure you guys leave a big like on this video too. Right now, hit that thumbs up button. Maybe share it with some friends, family. Let's get everybody in on this discussion today. But drop those comments, and we are going to be doing a live Q&A session as you see Chase in the background. Alrighty. But before we do that, don't think I forgot how we start each and every single one of these videos. Roll that dang intro. Alrighty, so let's look at the comment sections here. Red Sox and Ethan are both in the party. What is going on, guys? So Ethan pops out with our first question here, and he says, "Hey, what's good, PG?" Ethan, what's going on, bud? You said, "What's your opinion about Cole Strange?" So look, I was on the same kind of train as everybody else when Cole Strange first originally was selected by the Patriots. I mean, a guard in the first round. You don't love the value necessarily of the pick, but it takes one team to change a value of where a player is going to ultimately get drafted. Yes, you kind of have a consensus on where guys are going to be drafted, but that consensus really doesn't matter. If one team believes that Cole Strange is a first round pick, then he's a first round pick, just because the consensus is he's going to be a second to third round pick doesn't mean that's where he has to be taken. You want to get them obviously for his best value as possible, but at the end of the day, the draft comes down to getting young, good players that are going to make your roster better. And the Patriots definitely, without a doubt, got that with Cole Strange. I think if the Patriots got him even a round later, Patriots fans would be loving the pick. I think the reason that Patriots fans don't love the pick is because of the value where the Patriots got him. But, settling on things for a while, it's been a month now since the draft. We're able to kind of sit back and kind of evaluate things. And it's going to be a really, really good pick for the Patriots. I think he's really going to lock down left guard for the Patriots for a long time. As long as the Patriots can essentially keep him around. If he ends up turning out to be like a Joe Tooney who's going to go out there and get a bag, maybe he won't be here for 10 plus years. But if the Patriots can kind of get good value on him, especially on this rookie contract. They drafted him in the first round, so they have that fifth-year option. So you're looking at least 4 to 5 years of Cole Strange, and he can play at a high level. I think that's an absolute W of a pick, especially we're hearing the Patriots could be looking to kind of switch running schemes based off of what we've seen so far in OTAs. We'll see. We got one day of like an hour and a half of OTAs open to the media. Let's not say the Patriots are without a doubt going to be switching up their running scheme, but we're hearing that they could be going a little bit more, how do I say this? East to west rather than north to south, meaning, they're going to be playing more on the perimeter, running to the sides and not necessarily straight up the middle. At least that's kind of what we've talked about. Cole Strange, if the Patriots do want to do that, I think he's a perfect fit for that. His athletic ability is really going to help him get in front of his blocks, be able to get sideline to sideline, even as an offensive lineman. Again, is it the sexiest pick? No, it's a guard. There's not a whole lot to talk about versus, hey, we're talking about quarterback in the first round or wide receiver or cornerback or I would say really any other position. So unfortunately, again, it's not the sexiest pick, especially as kind of like a someone who makes content on the Patriots and breaking each little thing down. But from a football perspective, it's a great pick. And again, the reason that I think Belichick went with Cole Strange is because, hey, we're looking at wide receiver and we're like, we could use a little bit of help there. You look at cornerback, the Patriots have a lot of bodies there, but they don't necessarily have a lot of good starting pieces. But Belichick kind of looks and says, you know what? I have bodies at wide receiver. I have bodies at cornerback. They might not be the best, but I have bodies there. I don't have a body at left guard. If we played a game tomorrow, I would not have a left guard. And I think that's why he went Cole Strange there. All right, let's see. Next question. Also give a little bit here for people to slide on in. Save that edit real quick. All right. Oh, Neil Ray's up in here. Carnivore 2008 is up here. Cam. All right. Are the Patriots are the Patriots going to the playoffs? This is this is a tough one. Let me pull up. I know I got this on here. There we go. This is the Patriots schedule. Okay, this is also the Patriots schedule in order from left to right. The Patriots' first half of the season is not gonna lie, it's a little difficult, but not compared to the second half. After that bye week, you come out, you get your affairs in order, right? You play the Jets. Whether you're coming out hot or you're coming out a little slow, you're playing the Jets. That should be a good momentum game heading in for the rest of the season. But then you go Vikings on Thanksgiving. The Vikings, I'm not going to say are a playoff team, but they're still a good team. Like the Vikings are a good team that can still play competitive football. After that, you're going Bills, you're going Cardinals, which, I mean, hey, it might actually be a benefit the Patriots are playing Cardinals later in the season because the Cardinals always play great football early in the season and then somehow fall off at the end of the season. So maybe that's a little dub for the Patriots. They're low key. But then you go Bills, Cardinals, Raiders is an extremely tough game with Josh McDaniels. The Bengals. Let me see. What other game is that? The Dolphins and then the Bills. Again, this is not going to be an easy second half for the Patriots, but even though the first half it's not going to be too easy. How are the Steelers going to be? I think defensively, they're still going to be great. They're still going to be a very well-coached team. That's not going to be an easy game for the Patriots. The Ravens, I think the Ravens are going to be a very stout team this year. I think they're going to take that leap too. That is not going to be an easy game. The Packers are the Packers, okay? I think offensively, they're going to have some struggles, especially early on, but ultimately have Aaron Rodgers back there. They'll figure it out. And I think they really, really are keying up that defense, which I think is going to be one of the best in the NFL this year. So that's going to be a real tough game, especially early on. It's going to be a test game for Mac Jones and this offense, especially the offensive play calling. And then you have, teams like the Lions, the Browns, who I think the Browns game is going to be very dependent on who's at quarterback, who's playing for the Browns. That will really dictate if it's Deshaun Watson. Patriots are probably going to lose that game. If Deshaun Watson's suspended, he's not playing for some reason. I'm pretty confident in the Patriots to come out with another win. They've been able to blow out the Browns over the last few matchups. Really not worried about the Bears, not worried about the Jets, definitely worried about the Colts. So like I said, I think the second half of the season is, after the bye week rather, is much more tough for the Patriots. And I think it's really going to depend on them. I mean, which version of the Patriots are we going to see coming out of this bye week? That's going to be my storyline for this season. That's going to dictate this season in my mind. If we get a Patriots team who I believe only won one game after the bye week this past year, after going on a 7-8 game win streak, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed, especially with this schedule. But if they can do the flip-flop thing and they can actually come out of this bye week with momentum, using the bye week the way the bye week is supposed to be. The bye week is supposed to help you replenish yourself, get rest up, be able to get a little bit more healthy. Any guys that are injured on that point have a little bit of extra time to come back and get ready for, the following week 11 in this case for the Patriots, and just in general the rest of the season. And kind of for you to be able to have that week off and help game plan for the rest of the season, try some new things out, kind of iron out some of the wrinkles you had early on in the season, so that for that second half of the season, as you're finishing up your regular season, heading into potential postseason, you have things ironed out. You know what you're doing at that point. Unfortunately, the Patriots didn't use that to their advantage this past year. It seems like they went into that bye week saying, you know what? We're on like a 7-8 game win streak. We're pretty good. You know what? Let's just relax. We know what we're doing. We're doing fine. We'll just come out of the bye week doing the same old thing that we're usually doing. We've been winning. We can do this. We're fine. Don't worry about it. Everyone just, chill. Treat it like an off season for the week. And then they came out and looked absolutely horrendous on every side of the football, especially defensively. So if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm doing the exact opposite of what I did last time that this team had a bye week. With that being said, I think it's going to be extremely, extremely hard for the Patriots to make this roster. A lot of people are diminishing this team already, mostly because of the offseason. Teams that are projected to make Super Bowl or projected to make the playoffs or miss the playoffs is all dictated on their offseason. It's not dictated on how they're playing in the regular season because we haven't seen them play yet. So essentially what everybody's doing is they're taking, hey, what guys did you lose during the offseason? How was your free agency? And how was your draft? Unfortunately, the Patriots are ranked in most people's minds 32nd when it comes to this year's draft and this year's free agency. With that being said, because of that, everybody's taking a big shot at the Patriots, expecting a big major blowback compared to this past season. And it is a much tougher schedule, I will say. But the Patriots are definitely expecting a big, big jump from that big free agency splash that they made a year ago. Bill Belichick, I think we all expected him to kind of make this be a new version of Bill Belichick. But that's not really what it was. Bill Belichick finally had money, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to spend for 2 years. We thought Bill Belichick was just a new version of himself, spending a whole boat ton, bringing in talent. And we're expecting the same thing to happen this offseason. And that wasn't it. He was spending for 2 off seasons. And with that being said, he said it himself. They are really expecting guys like Johnny Smith, guys like Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. Like, they are expecting these guys to take that next step in year 2 and actually contribute versus what happened year 1. And with that being said, if that's what actually happens, maybe this team does take a much bigger leap forward. But I think it's not really the offense that concerns me. Unfortunately, it's going to be the defense. The defense is really going to have to step up again, especially from what we saw towards the end of that season. If they play how they did after the bye week, the Patriots are not going anywhere. You have to keep up with guys like Lamar Jackson and that Ravens offense. You still have to keep up with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. You got to keep up with Josh Allen and the Bills offense twice a year. You got to go in with Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams against the Raiders, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the Bengals. Like, you really need to have a stout defense for this schedule. And I do think that the offense is going to be very good this season. It's definitely going to produce. But at the same time, I don't think you want to rely on Mac Jones to have to continue to put up 7 points on every single drive in order to stay in this game. So with that being said, and how competitive I think AFC got this offseason, right now I'm going to say the Patriots don't make the playoffs. That's just going to be for right now. That's not, my ultimate thought on the season. But looking currently where the Patriots are at, we have a lot of questions that are still yet to be answered. We have a lot of OTAs, training camp, mini camp to see to help get some answers on these things. Once we get those answers, we'll get a better, accurate prediction on what to expect from this team for this 2022 year. But right now, based off of what we've seen with all of the questions, with a lot of these teams in the AFC, I would say getting better, teams like the Raiders, teams like the Chargers, I'm going to have to say the Patriots. And, teams like the Broncos, I would say the Patriots are going to miss out. That's not to say they're only going to win 7 games. I just think it's going to be really competitive in the AFC this year. All right, let's see. Yeah, Neil. So my boy Neil Ray says I agree. PG and also a mix of a lot of pass catching from White, Strawn, and Ty Montgomery. 100%. I'm actually going to make a video on Ty Montgomery and kind of his role with the Patriots. I think a lot of us are, even when he was signed, I kind of just like, yo, what is Ty Montgomery doing here? And I do have a very good idea on what the Patriots are trying to do with Ty Montgomery, kind of that role that he's expected to be in. So I'm going to be making a video all about that. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Neil Ray says, "Do you think it will be a zone mostly and zone man a little?" So I'm guessing you're talking about defense. I gotta sneeze. Hold up. Live on air too. I'm guessing you're talking about defense. I do predict the Patriots are going to mainly play zone. Again, let's see what they do this offseason. Like, we're all here saying you don't have the weapons defensively to be able to play man. Like, we're all expecting zone, especially because defensively the guys they brought in do strive more in zone. They really don't have that big man guy. But that would be the classic Bill Belichick move. And we don't really have guys that play zone, but we play man here. So you guys are gonna have to get used to it. We're playing man, okay? It wouldn't surprise me to see Bill Belichick do that, but I do think they're going to play a lot more zone compared to what we've seen in recent years. They're still going to play man, okay? Everyone's got to suck that up. Like, you're still going to see guys like Jack Jones, Malcolm Butler, Jalen Mills, Terrence Mitchell. Like, you're going to see all of these guys still play man-to-man football. They're not going to play zone 100% of the time defensively. You're going to have some games where they're playing more man. You're going to have some games where they're playing more zone. But I think how much man they play is going to be very dictated on, honestly, how these guys come in. How's Terrence Mitchell going to kind of make that transition to this Patriot system? How's Jack Jones going to perform? If he can perform extremely well straight off the bat, surprise all of us, and be a starting piece for this team, they can play more man. But if he's taking things slower, the Patriots don't really have that ability to play more man. They're going to stick with a lot more zone. And I think the Patriots are going to really utilize these safeties this year. They have a really, really, really good safety class, just not a good corner class. I think they're really going to try to help kind of supplement those issues they have at cornerback with playing a lot more of these safeties, whether that's Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, Devin McCourty, Jabril Peppers, especially Jabril Peppers. I think he's going to be a big part of this team this year. That's kind of how I see things panning out. And you guys already know your boy bought the chocolate milk because you got to get gains. I did not mean to drop that. So is Devontae Parker the Patriots' #1 receiver? Hold up. Let's pull up this Patriots depth chart. Give you guys a little bit of perspective on this. If it will let me. All right, let me share the screen with you guys. All right, so you guys don't need to see me. If we look here, this is the Patriots' current depth chart, right? I'm hesitant to say Devontae Parker is your #1 receiver just because of injury concerns. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if your main receiver would still be Jacoby Myers. I think ultimately they want Devontae Parker to be wide receiver 1, but that's going to be very dependent on him. If he can stay healthy and he can get that connection with Mac Jones, which honestly I'm not concerned about. The issue with Devontae Parker throughout his career has not really been the talent. He's always been able to produce on the field no matter who's throwing him the ball. It's just been his inability to stay healthy. That's really what has prohibited him from being a much higher looked upon wide receiver in this league. But we've seen guys in other places not be able to stay healthy, then come to New England and somehow play a full season. Example, Hunter Henry this past season. But I think if Devontae Parker can stay healthy, like I'm expecting a kind of like Josh Gordon effect with Devontae Parker here in New England. If he can stay healthy, I could see him being wide receiver one and finishing the year as wide receiver one. But if he kind of can stay healthy, you're looking more Jacoby Myers to Kendrick Bourne being wide receiver one. Now, I actually predicted last year that Jacoby Myers would lead the Patriots in receptions. Kendrick Bourne would lead the team in yards. Unfortunately, I was not expecting Kendrick Bourne to miss some games due to COVID. But if he didn't miss any games, I actually would have been correct. So I'm expecting a big year for somebody like Kendrick Bourne. I think Kendrick Bourne, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Kendrick Bourne is going to lead the Patriots in receiving yards this year. I think Jacoby Myers is going to lead the team in receptions. And that's my take right now. That might honestly switch with Devontae Parker somewhere mixed in there. All right. All right, let's see. What's the next question? Mac Jones end of season stats. We're predicting Mac's stats. I'm seeing 4,200 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Do you think he can pull it out? Let me pull up his stats from last year. Give some perspective. So you're predicting 4,200 yards. That's about 400 more yards than he threw this past year. So yards wise, I agree. There was a lot of games where Mac Jones was only throwing for like mid 200s. There were games he threw for less than 200 too. I think it was like that one Bills game he like threw for what, like 15 yards or some crap like that. So that's only 400 more yards. I think that's realistic for sure, especially with much better offensive weapons. As long as the offensive line can keep him upright, I don't see why that's not a realistic take. So I agree there. I'm going to go with 4,200 yards there. I think that he can definitely eclipse that. What was that? Oh, looks like we went out there for a second. Hold up. Let me share this while we try to get me back on. All right. So we just touched on yards. As for 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. If we look over here, Wi-Fi is bugging a little bit. That might be why. That's not what we want. Where did it just go? Oh, it's over here. So he had 13 interceptions this past year. 8 interceptions, I don't think is necessarily a bad take. That's what it's about 5 less interceptions. I'm gonna say more like 10 interceptions. I'm gonna go there. I think he'll throw for less interceptions, but I'm gonna go more so the route of 10. As for touchdowns, he threw 22 this past year. Still a pretty good number for a rookie. And you're going 32, so that's what's they give or take like 10 more touchdowns. I'm gonna say he throws for maybe 28 to 30. I mean, to say 10 more touchdowns isn't necessarily super unrealistic, but I think the Patriots are still going to be a heavy run team, especially like a run first team. And especially when they get to the red zone, like the Patriots have just always been a team where they want to punch the ball in by running the ball. So I'm going to go somewhere between 28 to 30 touchdowns. But I think even 32 touchdowns isn't a super unrealistic number. This is just obviously my own perspective. I definitely think that Matt can pull that off. I don't think that this is an extremely unrealistic take by you at all. Now, let me see what's going on with this camera real quick. Okay, I get you. I don't think you guys heard any of that. For some reason, it didn't unmute. Um, but yeah, I definitely don't think those stats are unrealistic for Mac Jones at all. I think you can definitely pull that off, Joshua, 100%. I think it's going to be a good year for Mac Jones. I am expecting that year two leap. Definitely want to make a video on that too. What if we get DK? We're definitely not getting DK. I think the Patriots don't need any more offensive weapons. They really don't. They're maxed out. They have enough guys at running back, at wide receiver, at tight end. Like, they have enough guys. If you want any offensive move at this point, you want an offensive tackle. Like that's the only route I could genuinely see the Patriots going, and I would want the Patriots to go. This is a really, really, really good offense. From well, okay, I hyped it up a little too much. This is a pretty good offense. This is a really good offense. I think it can actually go somewhere between the tight ends, the receivers. This is a very, very big difference compared to what we saw last year. I think this offense has more potential than what we've seen in years, like probably since 2017. I would probably say there, maybe early 2018. That's probably the last time I would say we saw an offense compared to what I'm expecting from this offense. Um, so I don't really think they need to make moves there. I think if you're going to make any trade at this point, it's got to be defensively. It has to be defensively. So I would pass on DK. So I want to touch on this one. So have we gotten any news on Ronnie Perkins or Anthony Jennings? So Anthony Jennings, no. Um, I do believe that he also wasn't there for day one of OTAs. OTAs are optional. He could have had a reason, so I'm not gonna get too into it. He could have a genuine reason why he wasn't there. Um, this is gonna be Jennings' potentially last opportunity to actually make this roster, to show that he belongs here. The Patriots are giving a chance to these young linebackers this year, guys. There's not these veterans getting in the way at this point. There's not your high towers, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy. Those guys are out. The Patriots decided to go with the younger guys over these older veterans. This is time for Anthony Jennings to show what he's made of and show, hey, you know what? You drafted me for a reason. I'm from Alabama, got those tied back to Nick Saban. I can make an impact, and I do think he can make an impact. But unfortunately, we haven't seen that up to this point. And I feel like since he was drafted, he's kind of just been a ghost. He's felt more like a seventh round pick than what the second, third round pick he was by the Patriots back in 2020. As for Ronnie Perkins wasn't there for day one of OTAs, at least for that one day that was open to the media. Maybe he returned after that. We don't know because again, only one day's been open to the media. But from what I've heard, Ronnie Perkins has stayed in Boston all offseason. He hasn't been going to Florida, taking the trips. He hasn't been doing any of that. He's been staying in Boston, close to Gillette Stadium, because he wants to make that impact. He wants to make that second year leap. He wants to come in essentially and be a starting difference maker piece for the Patriots. Obviously, he was redshirted this past year, but he doesn't want that to happen again. So he's been kind of practicing mentally and physically getting ready so that he can make that push in camp to show that he should be a starting piece. So ultimately, now all that's left is for Ronnie Perkins to actually show us physically out on that practice field that he deserves that. Do, 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 do. So Joshua brings up a really, really interesting question. And this is actually something that I've thought myself. He said, could we see Devin McCourty playing at outside corner? So remember, this is where Devin McCourty originally played when he was drafted by the Patriots way back when, and then was switched to safety. We actually do still see from time to time him playing corner. I wonder if PFF would have where he was used. Really hope they do. To help give some perspective, but they also might not. Hmm. I don't think they're gonna show me. I don't think they're gonna show me this. Yeah, PFF does not have. Now, unfortunately, PFF doesn't have his usage at each. Hmm, that's unfortunate. Um, but damn, I was really hoping for that too. But yes, we do still see Devin McCourty playing cornerback from time to time, and I do think that's a realistic take for the Patriots to use him at outside corner. They have a lot of safeties. Okay, you could also say Joshua Bledsoe, if he takes that leap, he can also contribute to that safety room. I don't think he will, but you never know. But with guys like Jabril Peppers, um, Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips, like they're going to help take some of this blow from these outside corners. I definitely think that Devin McCourty is going to play more outside corner than we're used to him playing. Now, I do think you definitely want to keep him back there at safety. You don't want any big plays happening. He's a big leader there in the back end of the field, especially for the secondary. So I think he's going to be super important. You don't want to necessarily have him playing a whole lot of outside corner, especially this late in his career. He's kind of a guy you want him to play everything in front of him and not necessarily things kind of in the back of him and all over. So I do think we will see Devin McCourty play a good amount of corner, but kind of tame your expectations still with that. What are my expectations for the two rookie Jones quarterbacks, Marcus Jones and Jack Jones? So from the day one that we saw of OTAs, Marcus Jones, like most of the other rookies, was there, but not participating. For what reason that was, I don't know. I think that was a Bill Belichick thing for some reason. But Jack Jones was one of the only guys, it was him and Cole Strange, that didn't come off the field. So, with that being said, I want to see how things develop with Jack Jones before I go ahead and put my expectations out there. If you are a Patreon member, you guys know in the chats, I haven't been a big fan of Jack Jones. Uh, I would understand if the Patriots drafted him later. But I think a lot of people are expecting him to be an outside cornerback right away. The size, I don't love it, especially as an outside corner. Experts expected him to be, more of a slot guy, which the Patriots obviously don't want him to be a slot guy. They have enough slot guys at this point, and they've been trying him at outside cornerback. It was Malcolm Butler and Terrence Mitchell as your outside cornerbacks, with Jack Jones also thrown in there. So my expectations, at least for right now, is that I'm going to say for camp. For Jack Jones is they're really going to try to utilize him a lot with that outside cornerback rotation. Dependent on how he plays is going to be dependent on what happens with him for this upcoming season. If he can kind of show out, kind of like JC Jackson did, if not better, in that first year, he's going to get playing time. But if he's getting blown coverage, can't keep up with guys, can't keep up with the longevity of the speed, then he's not really going to get any play time. But I do think the Patriots are really going to heavily try to put him out there as an outside cornerback. And then as for somebody like Marcus Jones, I think Marcus Jones will contribute year one, just not necessarily as a defensive piece. I think from time to time we'll see him kind of from like a game to game perspective. But I think kind of your longevity outlook on him is to be that replacement for Jonathan Jones, who is a free agent at the end of the season. What was Bill thinking on the Jarrett Stidham trade? I think Bill Belichick was thinking, hey, I need to be a genius and get something out of this guy before we cut him. Jarrett Stidham was going to get cut, okay? It might have been at the end of camp for roster cutdowns. Maybe they got rid of him a little earlier than, they originally expected. But I don't care when you get rid of Jarrett Stidham, and I like Jarrett Stidham. I don't care when you get rid of him if you can actually get something in return for him. He was going to be cut. Ultimately, that's what was going to happen. You have Bailey Zappi at this point. He's your backup quarterback. You have Brian Hoyer, the mentor, who's obviously going to make the roster, and then Mac Jones. That's three quarterbacks that are not going to roll with four quarterbacks to roll into the season. If you know Jarrett Stidham's not the future, you know Jarrett Stidham's not your backup quarterback and has really no piece to this team, and it's just going to be cut. Try to get something out of him, and they did. They didn't get much, but something's better than nothing. Mills on the outside scares the heck out of me. It doesn't actually scare me personally. As long as he's not playing CB1, his best role is kind of a not rotational, but like a rover mismatch piece that can play a variety of different places defensively. I'm hoping the Patriots use him more in that role. I think he'll be more successful. But honestly, as CB2 last year, he performed way better than I was expecting. Now, terrible game against the Cowboys. But other than that, he, for the most part, kept up with his own. I was very surprised to see what he did as CB2. As CB1, heck no. Heck no, I don't want to see it. Realistically, I want to see Jalen Mills as a rover or CB3. But I think he proved this past year that he can play CB2 and be fine. But he can play outside. But if we're talking about him going up against Jamar Chase or who else are we playing? Like Stephon Diggs, yeah, I'd be scared too. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to throw him in as CB1. You're going to see Terrence Mitchell or Malcolm Butler thrown as CB1 against those guys before you see Mills. Patriots are going 12-5. So you have us only losing a total of 5 games. Let me bring this back up real quick. So just at a quick glance of things, I'm not breaking this down right now, but just as a quick glance of things, I mean, you could easily lose both games to the Bills. That's 2 games right there. I think you're going to lose to the Raiders. That's 3 games right there. You're definitely. I mean, you got to imagine the Patriots probably end up losing 1 to Miami just because for some reason this is just a cursed thing. That's 4, meaning that you can only lose 1 more game. So yeah, I personally wouldn't agree with that one. That's just me though. Mr. Patriots Global, you better hope our linebackers, which are all unknowns, are going to produce. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long year. Yeah, I mean, if these linebackers can't produce and the secondary is going to have issues like we're expecting, it's going to be a long year. It's going to be a long year defensively, and you're going to be asking this offense to carry the entire weight of this football season, the fate of the 2022 season and postseason on this offensive back. That's exactly what you're going to be asking. I don't think it's going to end up that way. I think we have a really good group of linebackers between Raekwon McMillan, Juwan Bentley, who they brought back to kind of be your number 1 middle linebacker. And then from what we've heard from Cameron McGrone and then, some of these other guys, like I'm excited. I'm excited for the potential they have. Put Josh Uche back there from time to time at standing linebacker. I think that he would be good back there as a rotational piece from edge to stand up linebacker. I think more outside linebacker in my perspective, maybe like a Jamie Collins-esque type of role. I think these guys can get it done. I understand the hesitancy. I understand why Patriots fans would be scared. I'm not saying here like I'm 100% confident. I'm just more confident based off of what I see and kind of the expectations of these guys and what I'm hearing around the team. But there's a lot of unknown because they're young. With Hightower, with Jamie Collins, with Kyle Van Noy, like you know what you're getting. You know they're a veteran. You know what you're getting. You know the expectations. You know how they're going to play at this point. You know they've probably reached their ceiling, but you know what you're going to get from them. With these young guys, they have a much higher ceiling, but you just don't know where they're going to play. Are they going to look like starters or are they going to look like rotational depth pieces and lost puppies on the field? But I think they'll be good. I have confidence in this linebacker core 100%. I'm so excited though. I'm so excited for mini camp, so excited for training camp. We'll be at training camp again to report for you guys. So excited to hear about all these storylines. I mean, think about all the storylines. Can Mac Jones take that second-year leap? What about this offense, with Devontae Parker now in the mix? Jonnu Smith hoping to take that second-year leap. Kendrick Bourne expected to take a big second-year leap. These linebackers, the secondary, like there's so many storylines. I'm just so excited to see with this team in camp this year. 9 losses, 8 wins. Not super unrealistic. I'm seeing a lot of people say somewhere between like 8 to 9 wins. Our linebacker is going to be good. These are not the days of where Chad Brown got so. Yeah, like I said, I'm very confident too in the coaching staff that the Patriots have defensively, whether it's Bill Belichick or Gerard Mayo teaching these young guys. I'm confident. I'm confident what these guys can do. I'm super excited to see Cameron McGrone. You at least know what you're getting with one of these linebackers. You know what you're going to get with somebody like Jawan Bentley. It's not like everybody's new. We heard great things about Raekwon McMillan. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be a great piece for the Patriots. There's two linebackers right there. And then, I mean, hey, between, let's see, Cameron McGrone, Anthony Jennings, some of the, let's see, I just pulled this depth chart. So yeah, Anthony Jennings, Mac Wilson, almost forgot about him. I also think Harvey Longy could be a good rotational piece. Like he showed some really good flashes. Don't want him to be a starting piece, no, but a good rotational piece for sure. I'm excited to see Mac Wilson, who I think is going to bring really good sideline to sideline speed for the Patriots. Some really good coverage skills also. I'm excited for that. Ooh, what do I think about Isaiah Wynn not going to practice so far? If you're Isaiah Wynn and you have not gone to practice, what are you doing? It doesn't make sense to me. Look, OTAs are organized team activities that are optional, okay? You're not getting into the nitty-gritty, nothing like that. You're kind of just laying down your foundation, especially for the new guys that have come in, whether it's free agency or draft. But if you're Isaiah Wynn, you're in contract year. You're in contract year, and you have not proven since you have joined this team that you can go a full season and stay healthy. Whether you want to play for the Patriots and get the bag at the end of the season, or you just want to get the bag from any team in general, you need to show out. And a lot of people say, why did Bill Belichick always, in recent years, go ahead and get guys on one-year deals? Well, if you look at those guys on one-year deals, most of the time, those guys perform the best when they have something to prove. You sign a guy to a 4-year contract, his second year in that contract, like he's like, yo, I just locked up a 4-year contract. I got the bag. Like, I'm not worrying if I'm a little bit down this year. Versus guys who are in contract years saying, yo, if I want to go out, make bank, I want to have a job, like I need to absolutely show out. Belichick always brings these guys on 1-year deals. They got to show out. They got to play their best football. For Isaiah Wynn, he's got to do that. He's got to play his best football in order to go out at the end of the season and either get a new contract from the Patriots or get a contract from somewhere else. If you're going to make yourself look bad, if you're going to say, I'm not going to show up to practice, or I can't stay healthy, or, I'm getting beaten camp, or some guy's taking my spot, like your stock's going to go down. You could still get good money, but that could be a difference between making, let's say, $8 million and $13 to $15 million, which is a very big difference, especially for someone who's looking to go ahead and, again, chase that bag. That's also a difference between a guy getting, let's say, a 2-year contract versus a guy getting a 4-year contract. That's also the difference between the amount of guaranteed money you're going to get within that contract. For me, it's concerning not necessarily for the team. It's concerning for Isaiah Wynn as a person and playing football. I just can't wrap my head around what the pros of this would be. You know what I'm saying? He had a down year this past year too. I'm not going to say he had a great year. He had some good flashes, but again, couldn't stay healthy again, missed some time, and had some really bad moments, especially to start the season. And let's remember, he did the same thing last year. Like he wasn't showing up to OTAs. Like if he didn't have to show up, he wasn't showing up. And he started the season off really slow. Like that should have been a lesson for Isaiah Wynn. You know what? I need to start the season off hot. Like if I'm not coming to these practices, I'm starting off slow, sluggish to get myself into these things. Like going to these practices should be what gets you ready for week 1. I feel like Isaiah Wynn goes into things saying, you know what, like I'm going to go into week 1 everyone's getting back into football. We'll all be a little bit rusty. Like, I'll gradually get better as the season goes on. No, you don't want to gradually get better as the season goes on. You want to be ready for week one. And I just feel like Isaiah Wynn just doesn't have that mindset. Unfortunately, the Patriots don't have the the Patriots don't have the personnel to be able to say, all right, all right, see Isaiah Wynn. They just don't. Now, I think there is a way where if they do want to get rid of Isaiah Wynn, they can, in a perspective of what we've already seen from OTAs. Trent Brown at left tackle, Cole Strange at left guard, David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, and then Justin Herron. Or you can kind of replace the last two and say, let's say maybe Chase and Hines at right guard, and then Michael Onwenu at right tackle, which he plays. I would say he plays the best at right tackle. So they definitely can get away with Isaiah Wynn being gone if they decided to ship him off. But again, then you're losing depth. You know what I'm saying? If Chase and Hines gets injured, or Michael Onwenu gets injured, you don't really necessarily have that next guy up. I think ideally what you want is you want to be able to say, you know what, if things don't work out with Isaiah Wynn, we make him expendable. We try things to be able to say, you know what, you get injured again, or you know what, you're not performing well, we're kicking you to the curb, or you know what, we're going to trade you before the trade deadline. We have a backup plan. I think that's kind of what they're doing. But I think ultimately he's in contract year. He has a fully guaranteed contract. Just play him. Just play him, have that depth. And you know what, again, if things aren't working out, he's performing bad, you have that backup piece with, Trent Brown at left tackle to be able to mix some things up. So that's kind of my thought there on that whole win process. Let me know your thoughts on my schedule prediction. All right. Miami W, Pittsburgh W, Ravens W, Green Bay L, Lions W, Browns W, Bears W, Jets W, Vikings L. Interesting. Bills W, Cardinals L, Raiders W, Bengals W, Miami W, Bills L. Yeah, I mean, so what? You have, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4 losses. I'm gonna have to disagree with that one. I mean, hey, if that's what happens with the Patriots, I'm all for it. I am all for it. I think it started off not necessarily bad. Week 1 against Miami, I think it's a winnable game. Yes, you're going to Miami, which is actually statistically one of the hardest places to play. Like, they do not lose at home. But it's better to play them at home early on in the season when you're kind of acclimated to this hot weather versus it getting super cold in Boston, dropping to below 30, and now you're going to 80 degrees late into the season. I do think that bodes very, very good for the Patriots to be able to play a competitive game. Week 1, Pittsburgh, I think you could argue both ways that it's a W or an L. I think the Patriots will come out with a dub. Ravens, you could still go both ways. I'm leaning towards more of an L for that one, but you could again still see it going both ways. The Patriots have performed well against them in recent years. Green Bay L, understandable. Lions W, understandable. Browns, again, you can go back and forth, understandable. Bears W, Jets W, Vikings L. Again, I think you can go both ways with the Vikings. Honestly, I feel like the Patriots, like, prime time games, sometimes they just suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's games that they should win in prime time, but because it's a prime time game, they just suck. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots just come out like plain bad on Thanksgiving. I'm gonna say Bills is an L. I don't even think the Patriots are gonna split with the Bills. Like, I'm gonna just say it's an L. Cardinals L, Raiders W. I think Raiders is going to be an L. The Patriots traveling there never do well against former Belichick disciples. Like I think McDaniels is going to come out and win against the Patriots. Bengals W. Miami W, which means you have us winning both games against Miami. I always say that we're going to lose one game because it's just the football gods always want us to lose one. So I'm going to say one of them's a W and then that last one an L. So a couple of things I would change, but we do still have some of the same thoughts kind of with that like Lions W. I could see them going on a potential win streak, Lions, Browns, Bears, Jets, and then maybe Vikings. But I think that's obviously a breakdown discussion to have later. Light Shadows, can I ask you who you are most excited about for our rookie draft picks this year? Who I'm most excited about? Honestly, I'm probably most excited to see either Tyquan Thornton or Pierre Strong. Like I'm so excited to see Pierre Strong, fastest running back the Patriots they've had for as long as I can remember. Faster than Shane Vereen, James White, Sony Michel, Blunt, Bolden, like everyone. Faster than Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and notably fast. Like he's going to bring a different dynamic to this Patriots running back core. I'm just not sure yet if they're going to redshirt him or if they're actually going to play him. Because honestly, this very well could be a redshirt year for somebody like Pierre Strong. You kind of already have that 1-2 punch. You have James White as your pass catching back. Maybe they see him as like a 2023 guy when you might not have Damian Harris. Maybe if things don't pan out well with James White, you end up letting go of James White. So he could be a guy that does get redshirted, but I'm so excited to see kind of the dynamic, especially in this offense with how good they are at getting blocks, kind of how he can get it into next gear and punch it in for, 50, 60-yard touchdowns. I'm so excited to see that. But I'm also just excited to see kind of that 428 Tyquan Thornton speed, especially if you can have two speedsters on the field between Nelson Aguilar and Tyquan Thornton. I think that could be a really, really good dynamic because we're not really used to seeing the Patriots have two dynamic speedsters on offense. So there's usually just one. Should we bring in Deion Jones to help the linebackers? I'm pretty sure Deion Jones just had surgery and is like out for the season. As long as we're talking about the same guy, which I believe we are. Neil says, I think we'll have 11 to 12 wins. Wow, you guys are being very optimistic. We'll lose to Green Bay, Vegas, Browns, Bengals, Bills once, and maybe Colts. Colts is an L for me. Colts is an L for me. Yeah. I definitely think Colts is an L. I think Bills twice is an L. Vegas is an L. One of Miami's an L. But I think they'll be better than 7 wins. I think they'll be better than 7 wins. If they can come out in 2020 and be better than 7 wins, then I'm confident this team can be better than 7 wins. Any chance Thornton gets regular season snaps this year? And do you think he gets buried behind our depth chart? I don't think so. I know some people are kind of predicting that maybe he takes like a more of a red shirt year and packs on some weight, some muscle mass, and then comes back next year. I think he'll just play a more prominent role next year. Like I still think he'll get time this year. I think he's going to still be on the field, and he should be. But I think he's going to play a more pivotal and bigger role, especially when it comes to the amount of snaps he's going to get game in and game out in 2023 compared to 2020. But we've been going about 55 minutes. I do want to drop some content for you guys today, too, concluding the video on some winners and losers from Patriots OTAs this week. But I want to appreciate each and every single one of you guys who actually tuned in to watch this live stream. It really, really does mean a lot to me. Make sure you guys do leave a big thumbs up on this video. It really, really helps me out with YouTube and the algorithm and helping these videos be more successful. But make sure you guys do have those bell notifications on so you do get notified when I drop some more content. But without further ado, if you aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe for all your New England Patriots news. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Go Pats.